Hey everybody, welcome to the town hall. We are Azaelinless again. Apparently, his job decided to kidnap him and won't give him back. We're trying, but once we pay the ransom, then we'll hopefully get him back.
He's in the
Uh,
stream. This is inexcusable.
I know he's chatting, but not here. But we do have Poison Taco. We got Puka,
Yo,
we got Zeb,
Yo.
and Valek. Today we're going to be discussing the wasteland of the MMO genre and how that is impacting game communities. Hopefully someday this wasteland will resolve itself. But until then, what are your communities doing to fill in the gaps? Let's start with Valek, since he is probably the largest, singularly most organized group.
you see how little water I have right now?
Organized.
I feel like this is the representation of how we're doing.
I would feel that we have extrapolated over this time that Valek's group is more specifically hierarchical than some of our other groups here.
In some ways, we've definitely got a rule set and everything. But yeah, I would say it's tough, man. We're constantly just trying stuff. That's honestly what we're doing right now. Like I've actually been working on setting up a meeting with just assorted people in our community who are playing different games that we don't really have like any kind of an official presence in, but we've just got people, playing them and stuff, to try to get them all together to be like, all right, look, you're playing this game, you're playing this game, you're playing this game. Are there any of us that we want to get together, at least get some things on our actual event calendar, try to migrate some people there so that we can do some of these things together? Because like when WoW Classic came out, I'm not playing WoW Classic. I've got very little interest in it. And it didn't really seem like we had many other people that were interested in it in the first, amongst the general membership, but we did apparently. And they ended up on like 5 different servers. And we're like, come on, guys, like, y'all are interested in this.
A little bit of organization there. Yeah.
Nobody really, went out to go to get on on the same server or anything. Which, to be fair, you're returning to a game that you probably played in some cases years ago, and you've got a lot of old friends in and stuff. So I can understand people are getting fragmented and stuff. But that's kind of what we're doing now. Is kind of just experimenting and seeing how we can get people busy, because in any game really at this point, because the MMOs are kind of dried up. We're waiting on 3 or 4 different MMOs to come out. We're personally waiting on 2, neither of which is coming out anytime soon. And it's my philosophy has always been that activity breeds activity, and so unless you have people playing games together, it's really tough to feel like a community, no matter what you're doing.
The last thing you do want is people retiring on you.
WoW Classic is definitely one of those difficult titles because you've got people that have been playing for many years, and they've hopped around on servers, met a whole bunch of different people, and then they've everyone's got this completely separate curated list of who they want to play with, and it's like trying to get people to play together is just it's just crazy. Dare I say, almost impossible sometimes, but I mean, it can be done, definitely, for sure. But
well, I think what you have to do is focus in on the 2 or 3 games that people are playing that are not MMOs, and then organize space for it, organize times, get in-depth information on your Discord or website or TeamSpeak on these games, and then try to continue on until something that you are looking forward to is released, at least in the beta stage. Then you have something to be excited about.
Are there any specific titles out there that, besides WoW Classic, which we've mentioned, that has been exciting your communities at all?
Yeah, Borderlands 3 has been pretty fun and good for the community. Different players meeting each other and that didn't know each other from different genres joined in on this one because it was a popular big release and we supported it.
Yeah, we've been in and out of Division 2. I'm currently playing Star Wars: The Old Republic. We tried to go back to ESO. That lasted a whole of like a month, and everybody was like, "Oh, right, that's why we didn't play this game before." And then we're kind of waiting for the Destiny 2 patch to come out, which is supposed to be a significant change to that as well. We actually were pretty active when that first came out, and if they hadn't really dropped the ball with their DLCs, I think that we would have still been playing that. But yeah, it's been interesting trying to find titles, because that's what you're seeing mostly is the games are coming out that they're not MMOs, but they're group play MMO-esque models.
Yeah, like Warframe. Like Warframe and Destiny and things like that.
I would say a lot of the wargaming style, matchmaking style games have been a great outlet for a lot of my members, myself included. They are awesome titles to go to during moments of what you feel will be downtime between games, and really grind out and progress. And then it's like, all right, when you go to something new, you go try that, but then you always got these games you can fall back on, and you pick right back up where you left off. It's not like the whole community left you behind in those titles.
Yeah, we've had a fair amount of people in No Man's Sky a little bit since the latest content patch for that, and unfortunately, we've been very in and out of Overwatch. Like, we've had spurts of people playing a lot of Overwatch, but it's like it's almost like the WoW disease all over again. Like, you go in there and everybody's like, "Yes, we're gonna do this," and then like 3 or 4 months later, we're like, "God, I'm so pissed off at this game," and people just start kind of backing off. Just like, "Why were we doing this again? We're gonna forget again in a year, and we're gonna start playing again."
One thing I've noticed too is that it's not just the MMO genre that's suffering right now, but it's also, I would argue, the FPS genre, where there's not a lot out there if you want to have a server. Like, I mean, yes, there is, and there always will be Arma, and Arma will always have its own thriving community. But outside of that, I mean, Battlefield, you can't really have a server anymore, and Call of Duty has been long gone for community servers. So even if you're an FPS player, which some of my guys are, we got nothing to have a server.
Yeah, you're stuck in public.
You want to play Minecraft?
You do matchmaking.
You want to play Minecraft? Hunger Games?
Well, I mean, like let's take Battlefield for example. Battlefield 4, we had a thriving server, 64 slot server, and if you have 10, 20, 30 people in your group and you want to play Battlefield together, hey, let's all get onto our server. Everybody splits teams, or we do everybody on one team, even though that would unfairly unbalance the server and everyone else would quit. But now, Battlefield 5, the newest one that came out, the most people I can play with is 4 people. We just one squad. We go in and do matchmaking. So if you have any kind of community, you got nothing to work with in the FPS scene. We tried Hell Let Loose. That came out. I don't think that has as big of a thriving community as we'd like. And that's the thing too, is like other shooters are coming out, but they're not getting enough traction to support a lot of servers, which is kind of unfortunate. And other than that, if your community is into the survival game genre, if you haven't burnt yourselves out on Rust or Arc, those are always options. But
that's the one thing that I'm finding is pretty much you play Fortnite or you play nothing.
Okay.
I think the thing that has been the toughest has been the length of the drought. It's not just that, we're kind of suffering for a lack of MMOs to really focus in, as much as how long it's been dragging on, with certain MMOs taking forever to come out. We've got between Camelot Unchained, Crowfall, and Star Citizen all kind of in a long development period. There's a lot of people, at least within my community, who are all just sitting here like, all right, we've been here for like 4 years now. All these games we've played. And we've for most of them, we've had like a group in at some point. We've had a Minecraft server. We've had all kinds of stuff to try to distract ourselves. And it's starting to get really tough to really find anything to.
And that's really the thing. Like if you're a solo player, if you only play games by yourself, there's so much good stuff out there to play. But if you have a group or a community, it's just abysmal.
So I got a random question. Would y'all rather, as like community leaders, would you rather that you and your members just didn't know about these titles coming out and you learned about them a year to 6 months prior to an actual launch? Do you think that would be better than kind of what we've been living in?
You mean
Yes.
pre-kickstarted MMOs?
Yes.
Let me kind of throw in a curveball on that one, because my group was into Battlefield and Guild Wars back in the day. If we didn't have these upcoming MMOs to look forward to, then what would be the point of keeping communities together in the first place?
That's a good point.
So do
Well,
you think
the hopes and dreams, I think, is that we would hope that there wasn't such a huge drought and you wouldn't have to be stringing a community along for 5 years going, we're just going to play this for one more year. We swear the real game is coming around the corner, and then 5 years later we're still waiting.
The other fear I have with this topic is that not just that we're suffering through a long drought, but when we finally get it, it will be feast and then it will be famine, or famine and then feast. And then it will be too many games, and we won't be able to cover them all.
Well, you're going to see, unfortunately, 2 games that I think a lot of us have thrown money at, which is Star Citizen and Camelot Unchained, come out at the same time, and you're not going to be able to really throw that much time into both of them. So you're going to kind of have to end up picking, which is horrible. That's it's going to really divide the game sphere, as it were.
That's my whole thing too, because it's like I'm in on Star Citizen and Camelot. Ashes of Creation, I always thought that looked pretty cool. I've put my support into the game, but I'm not going to be able to play it. Same thing with Crowfall, same thing with Chronicles of Illyria. They all look cool, but it's unfortunate because it's like I only got enough time for 2 at most.
So,
yeah, I'm hoping the Chronicles of Illyria comes out about 2 years after the other 2 come out.
would y'all much prefer that if like these devs recognize like these potential like 5 titles recognize that and work together to create like a 6-month gap between releases?
I think one thing that I don't necessarily. I mean, that would be nice, but one thing that I am kind of pleased about is that some of the, not all of them, but some of these developers, like Camelot Unchained, like Pantheon, have started to recognize that that MMOs need to be more niche, that they need to focus on one thing they want to do really well instead of trying to do everything. Because exactly, when like we have like 3 MMOs out and all of them are trying to do PvP and PvE and all this other stuff, we're like, well, which one do I play? But if I have Camelot Unchained as a PvP MMO and Pantheon comes out, which is a game I'm at least kind of looking at, or Star Citizen, if I decide, all right, well, I want to play Star Citizen sometimes, and maybe focus on more economic stuff or something, is kind of more of a casual game for me. I can maybe do that, I can balance those. Go, okay, well, this is my PvP game. This is going to be like my economics game. That's how I'm going to do it. But if they're both just trying to do all the stuff, then I'm going to go, I don't know. Maybe I'm going to hop around. I'm going to spend a tiny amount of time on this and then this. Or the worst thing I think for communities is what are your guild members going to do? Because then you have your guild members who hop in one game, they play it for a bit, and they're like, oh, this is pretty good, but let me go test this out for a little while. We're like, wait, but we need you to kind of maybe stay focused on this game so we can be all together and stuff. Yeah, but that game, grass is greener on the other side. That game might be better.
I mean, luckily... Go ahead.
One thing I think we might be discounting a little bit with these games coming out is that there's probably going to be a lot of younger players who have no idea how good it was with some of these older MMOs. They never got around to it. Like, I'm kind of borderline. Like, I never got to play Dark Age of Camelot. I barely got to play Star Wars Galaxies. I was 13, 14 when that came out, so I never really got to appreciate it. So, I mean, anyone who's, like, college age now where you probably haven't played a half decent MMO. You probably never got to play WoW in its prime. You probably at best played one of the plethora of WoW clones that came out and
You can play
died.
WoW in its prime right now, though.
Well, that's just it, right? Some of these younger players might be just now getting introduced to classic WoW, right?
Yeah.
And then
What skill
they're gonna
trees
get-
actually look like, as opposed
Yeah.
to cookie cutter
But,
WoW character for them.
A lot of them might end up liking it. A lot of them might go like, "Oh, hey, this is why WoW caught on," and then they're gonna look around and go, "Well, I want more of that. Where's another game that does the same thing as classic WoW?" So you never know.
In response to Zayla's comment here, I'm going to say I don't think it's the first one that gets shafted. I think it's everyone after that, because that's the problem. Is whoever comes out first is going to steal the bulk of the panicked crowds of gamers going, "Oh my god, I need something!" And it's just going to look like a zombie apocalypse of dead gamers going, "Oh,
Wait,
fine."
they will
That
be the
already
market-
happened.
They will be
That
the
already
market
happened
leader,
last year, though.
Yeah.
Last year we had Bless Online, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, an MMO!
That was,
Let's go
that
to
was
it."
not a game. That was not a game.
It was an
People still,
abomination.
people still flooded it. People still got hyped for it.
Yeah.
Why
Oh,
you're
yeah,
getting
yeah.
hyped?
Well,
Why
I
you're
was
getting
gonna
hyped
say-
for a game that failed in 3 other regions beats me. But
I was going to say, I think you're right about that. In that you're both right about that, because people are going to go in and they're going to feast on the first one comes out. But unless it's a good game, they're immediately going to run back out.
Yeah,
the
it's
next.
still got to hold people, and I think that's the challenge, right? Is that all these devs coming up have got to basically ask themselves, when do we have the core features in our title that are going to keep people returning day after day? When do we have a certain level of polish that will be accepted in this industry, and whatever year we're at? Because everyone's competing, right?
Well, if you're following that rule, they could all release now, because last time I checked, we don't require polish or finish for games anymore. Don't worry, the DLC will take care of that. Sometime in year 2, the game will be stable enough and not crash.
but the game may be buggy, but you have to make sure the microtransaction store is working flawlessly.
Oh, exactly. Because if you can't make money to pay for those repairs.
So Zaylen brings up in the chat, WoW Classic versus Arcade Unchained. I would say that is they are not competitors. It is a completely different audience. I don't think there are any similarities whatsoever between the titles. And if you are a person that really enjoys World of Warcraft and that setup, you will hate Arcade, and vice versa.
The PvE is not extensive in Arcade. It is a open sandbox, economy-driven murder fest.
It's about
Whereas
killing and
WoW is,
stealing.
let's all get into a big group hug, and even if we're on a PvP server, and we're gonna all go over and play in the dungeons, because that's what it's designed.
Yeah, I think ultimately that the difference in WoW is the game is your enemy in WoW. Like you are, it is designed to make you want to overcome the obstacle that is the game, and work together to do it. In Arcade, everybody's your enemy. Like you can't trust a single one of them.
Yeah.
They're all going to
But
kill
as
you.
Alan says, for the sake of something new, just to draw players, I think the problem with the classic is that while enough people see classic with rose-colored lenses, I think also enough people really remember the pain points and remember that the game really kind of sucked until Burning Crusade came out and the game was actually polished. So whereas AAU is taking something that is already polished and then going, hey, that one thing you really
It's
hate about
already a
the
7-year-old game or something like that.
game, let's fix it. Arcade? It's 5.
Yeah. Well, we've had it for 5 years, but the game itself has been.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I will say this in defense of classic WoW players. I've got a small group of people in my guild that are active and loving classic WoW. I mean, they are really enjoying it, and it's like more power to them. I think every single one of them are riding a nostalgia train. Like I mean, they're sitting there. They're in God, what's the first dungeon? The mines. DM.
Dead Mines.
Dead Mines, and like they're sitting there doing raids of Dead or doing a group run of Dead Mines, and they're excited about it and having fun, and marking targets and doing pulls, and it's like more power to them, right? Like that's what they want. Yeah, well, I mean, but they're having fun and they're playing together, and it's like that was 15 years ago, right? Like that's
great.
Are your community members that are doing that? Are they older? Because I actually have some that went to Classic WoW.
Age. Yeah, they're my age.
I got some that are college kids, and they're going. Yeah. They're kind of going back to experience it for the first time. So.
See, in our particular instance, we don't have any. I mean, one of them is older, but for the most part, they are. I mean, they're the people I play Classic WoW with in high school.
I could see I could see a bunch of younger people because I can speak that like for example, one of the reasons why I'm into Camelot and why I played Warhammer is because I never got to play Dark Age of Camelot. I was too young when that was in its prime. So obviously, like you go on the forums, you're like people are like, oh man, Dark Age of Camelot was so much fun, and all the PvP, and you had the realm combat and all that kind of stuff, and you're like, man, I want that, but it's not there. So, there is a bit of that, and I can kind of speak to a bit of that.
Oh, yeah, and just a note, I officially made myself sound like an old man because I believe I said college kids. That was
the gray in the beard is not a joke.
I was like, wow, did I really say that? Let me get my walker.
The main thing that's been standing out as an issue for me with Classic, and again, if people are playing it, they're enjoying it. It's great because people need something to play and enjoy right now. I just don't see how it's feasible long term because where's it gonna go? It's done.
So I think what's important. So I think what's important to understand about that is you have to define long term because look back at Classic. Like then Classic WoW lasted over a year. How long was it before we even got Burning Crusade? Was that 2 years?
Couple years, I thought.
That was 2 years. In our day and age and our expectation of new content, like back then, they rode that choo-choo train for a while before they started
be
pumping
real,
out.
though.
Not
Blizzard
necessarily.
puts out new content constantly. They don't put out stuff for a big expansion, but there's always constantly new dungeons and things being entered in little sub storylines.
They've got a roadmap for Classic. The point is, it's like a game that launches today. If it even gets a year of a solid ride, I mean, what a success! And it's not like for them; it's just they are just increasing the value of their subscription. That's ultimately what it is, It's like you get it with the subscription, so they don't care what version you're playing. And that's where I was like, genius move.
Did your cat get into your room?
Yes, there is a cat meowing somewhere.
I was trying to figure out if it was mine. I was
that's mine. That's mine.
So Puka does have a cat. It's official.
Well, you don't know. That could have been a soundboard. You don't know yet. I have proved it to them.
But you're not incorrect. I mean, that's the thing is they can drag out everything in Classic for 2-3 years, and when people are tired of it, they're tired of it. They wander off. But they didn't have to make anything. They already had a game, so it's like
sure
they are literally resold bullshit. I mean, That's an amazing way to make some money, And AEU is going to be the same thing. Here's the original game. Oh, look, we changed the pay model. Okay, let's resell it.
Yeah, they. I think.
That's one thing these
fixate on. Go ahead.
That's one thing these upcoming MMOs need to not do is exploit people, because the games that have fair business models are going to be the ones that succeed.
Agreed.
And there's nothing that makes me burn out of a game faster than when I feel like they're trying to milk money out of me.
Oh yeah,
And I think it's gone on long enough, and it's also a big enough discussion, because we can talk about the stuff going on in the UK right now. We can talk about like all the stories coming out of like some kid spending $70,000 on RuneScape or something, and people are wising up to it. So I mean, if these MMOs come out and they're, you know, I mean, obviously Star Citizen sells ships. They need to get rid of that, like they have said. When that comes out, ship sales should be going away. And even Crowfall, you can buy a $70,000, or not $70,000, $7,000 castle if you really wanted to.
Yep.
but that doesn't.
That was
mean,
one of the things that kept me from actually investing in Crowfall when they started putting out all this stuff that you could buy for all these plots and everything. I was like, oh god, here we go. I already have Star Citizen emailing me about buying ships. I really don't need this crap in my life.
I will say.
I mean, there's one. Go ahead.
Well, I'm just going to say, and I do not know about Crowfall. I'll talk about the two examples I know, which is Star Citizen and Chronicles of Illyria, where I both heard, like, hey, you know, you can buy stuff like Chronicles of Illyria. You can buy like wagons. You can buy stuff to furnish towns and whatnot. And again, my understanding of both of these titles is, like, yes, that allows you to start the game with these items, right? But that does not in any way guarantee your ability to keep them. And that may be true for Crowfall. I'm not sure.
In Crowfall, what you're buying is stuff in your forever
Realm.
plot.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
Well,
your safety realm, so you can never lose that stuff. It's just, in a way, it's fancy, like, pretty stuff.
But is that like a cosmetic thing? Does that have any effect on gameplay?
Well, I mean,
Indirectly. So, yeah, I'm not going to defend Crowfall. I don't know it. You know, I'll defend things like COE, because what people are trying to do is they're trying to, one, these cats are investing crazy money, and the idea is they are being given control over how the world begins. The people like buying the mayorships, getting their towns, fleshing out their towns with all these little things that you buy in those packs. They're getting control over how their world begins. But after that, like it's out. Once it started, it started. And I think Star Citizen is
figured out the best model ever. Why hire devs when you can make devs pay you money to do it? Because that's what we're doing.
Yeah. And I think Star Citizen, as much as I despise Star Citizen's tactics, ultimately they're doing the same thing. You know, the ships are the levels, they are the areas of gameplay. And, like, yes, you can buy them, you can start in the world, in the big old world of Star Citizen with your ship, and you can lose it in 45 seconds. And
you have to wait a week to get it back again.
Yeah, and so there is, like, yes, you do have that initial start, and I will agree with Star Citizen devs too. Like, yeah, you can buy a Polaris, but unless you got some homeboys to help you pilot that bad boy, it's not a viable solo investment.
My only issue, like I said, with SC and that, which this isn't really a microtransaction stream, but my only issue with that is the lifetime insurance, honestly, and just the sheer volume of them coming out with new ships, going buy new ships. It feels like every other.
The only reason why you should buy into ships is to get LTI.
Correct.
Well, exactly, and that's my problem though, and that's why I decided, like, I spent probably 6 months debating on whether to buy into Star Citizen at all, and I finally decided, all right, it's going to be too cool. I don't want to completely miss out on it, but I can't afford to buy all these massive LTI ships. I can't afford it, and I feel like if I can't afford to buy them, there's no way I can be competitive when this game first comes out. Because, like you said, it gives them control over the start of the game. I can't be competitive now.
Well, so
I'm just going to have to accept that I can play the game at a semi-casual rate. I can go and do mining or something, but I am not going to be. Yeah.
Well, here's where, and I'm going to say right now, do not buy ships. Don't do it. I'm not defending Robert Space Industries, whatever. No, I'm just talking to the stream. Like, don't do it. Don't go buy ships. But
they're
coming
so
from a
pretty.
standpoint of like LTI, coming from the standpoint
You could
of,
join my community.
whatever.
We have room for about 500 players, considering how many ships we own, just to crew the crap we already have. So,
My understanding of LTI, based upon what I've read from feedback from them, is the understanding is if you fly ships without insurance, you're an idiot. It's going to be an understood operational cost of any ship. And essentially, it's not going to be a crazy cost either. And it will definitely be proportional to the type of gameplay you're doing. And base insurance is going to be dirt cheap.
I played Eve, and it was basically the same thing. If you were flying a ship around without insurance, you're
out of your mind.
I mean,
but
LTI,
the LTI
is just going to make sure you always get your frame and
Correct.
your base ship back.
That
when you
base
put all
stuff
the
it came
sweet
with.
ass upgrade guns and everything like that isn't going to be covered.
And
under
you're gonna
LTI.
you're gonna have to get higher levels of insurance to ensure that, including the people that got LTI. And so I think LTI is their way of saying, listen, you gave us real money for this. You will always have access to that. Now, that you have access to will be competitive for a little bit at the start of game, but once the game gets growing, that base ship is not going to be competitive at all.
Right. It's all
you
about
will have had to have
Also, I
upgraded
wanna
that
add-
ship. Go ahead.
I want to add, I have firsthand proof of killing an entire room full of whales. That entire room had people that have spent way more money than me. And I just had to walk in with a gun and shoot them up like a...
Now, they were in their
like a
underwear.
terrorist,
though.
yes.
I saw the video. They were in their underwear. You could have done hostage. You could have anything.
I like it.
He mowed them down in their underwear. He's a terrorist. Who's a
Just saying. Just saying. In a game like Star Citizen, money isn't everything.
Oh no, yeah, and that's one reason I'm
money
excited.
isn't everything as long as they're using money to throw a pool party in the middle of space. But if they were sitting on an Idris all in battle stations, it's a little bit different of a conversation too.
Oh, trust me, I would find a way.
But don't buy ships. That's what we're trying to say here. Is don't buy Star Citizen.
You don't need
don't
to.
do it.
But they're pretty.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do
they
it.
are pretty.
They're so pretty.
That's the thing for me. It's like I don't care about any of the power associated with it. For me, it's just the cool factor.
Unless you
Like,
really
yo,
you
that's
have
the
money.
awesome ship. I want it, but I can't afford it.
Star
It
Citizen,
burns me.
Star Citizen, what the ships offer you, the individual ships, with the good ones that they designed. Now, I'm not defending all of their designs, but the good ones offer up new gameplay for you to explore and to immerse yourself in. And the thing is that Star Citizen is going to be an immersive experience. You're going to sink into that world, and you're never coming out because it is just so in depth and detailed, every single bit of it. And so, if you look at it like that, I don't see the ships as a big entry point of cost entry, because I believe that it's not going to be subscription based. It's going to be
They're
free
really
to play.
expensive.
It's free to play, and if you want to be a schlub on Malice's Idris, that's free. You can schlub it. You can work the broom and the mop, and get his floors clean. But
No,
Shoot turrets.
we already got a guy who literally signed up just to be our janitor.
Just to be the janitor.
I like it.
That's awesome.
Hey, so I have a question here from Zalen, directed at Zeb. Given the recent formation of crowd control and its insane growth as a community, what has that been like in a time of no real games to play or to reinforce that community feel?
first, you have to actually meet and get to know most of your community. That you cannot skimp. If other things are calling your attention in real life, I understand. But in order for a new community to thrive, you need to pay attention to its initial stages, and sometimes trim it as well, because you may have been over exuberant for who gets in, and then the mix is wrong, and there starts to be conflict. So you have to watch very carefully as leadership what's going on in your small community as it's growing into a large community, and that particular thing that I spoke to earlier, that we played Borderlands, has been a nice break for us from the organizational period into let's just shoot stuff and adventure and see funny things. And it's important to have games that are not very important in the long term. That you're just going to be like, this is just a game for the next few hours, and we can enjoy it and all have a good time. Because at the end, if you're not gaming together, you're not a gaming community. You're a social club, and those are different aspects that you have to address.
Have you figured out your gang sign yet? Because
Yeah,
I
it's
think
gonna
this
be
is going to be your gang sign.
It looks like a big melon, but it's really 2 cents. Now I look like I'm doing kung fu. Anyway, sorry, bad joke.
So let's talk about the elephant in the room. I think for a lot of our communities is Arcade Unchained, especially concerning where.
Talk about me.
Well, knowing where WoW Classic's been out for what, just under a month now. I believe.
Yep.
And so, if you had members going there, they're there. Maybe they've come and gone. Maybe they're still there. But, if you don't have members, they didn't go there, they're still thirsty for something. I'm a big advocate that I think Camelot Unchained is the opposite side of that spectrum. What do you guys think about this game for your communities?
I can say that Arcade Unchained has added a lot of energy and reinvigorated my own community. It's gotten people to rally together, and I've also managed to recruit a lot of new people to our community who like what we have to offer. And couple that with our current war in Star Citizen against the whales, both sides of our community is very much all revved up and ready to go. So, like I said in the last show or two, declare a good war on someone. That's another good way to invigorate your community in these times of drought. But going back to Arcade, it's been nothing but good. Even if you're watching this and you have a guild, you look into it. It's something to do, and it's probably going to be a ton of fun. All they have to do is not screw up the business model.
You say that like that's so easy.
And so everyone here, I mean, obviously, speaking of Arcade, I think a lot of us, if not everyone, has at least played at live. Are y'all confident that Excel and Gamingo working together will deliver a not pay to win experience based off everything you've heard?
Absolutely not.
To me, it's not even a consideration, because if they don't, then we all leave, and they fail terrifically. It's if it just becomes another legacy server where you have to swipe to win, then I don't see it going very far, and their product is dead in the water. Gamingo loses their investment.
So 2 things. One, it is the easiest buy-in I've ever seen, because since they're not adding a sub, they don't care if you leave. You've already paid
$25.
Yep, they want your $25. So
Okay.
that's one thing. The second is that Gamingo has yet to be able to properly police legacy servers. With that being said, now if they're going to put that investment and instead just ignore the legacy servers and dump financial investment into these AAU servers, that's a possibility. But at the end of the day, if they can't stop gold farmers and gold sellers in the legacy environment, how are they, and all the exploiting where they're doing wagon jumping and a lot of other stuff like that. Literally, we have videos of the stuff. They send them in, nothing happens to these guys. So if they don't stop that exploiting, if they don't stop that gold farming, then it's just swiping. Because that's the funny thing. As much as they want to restrict the swiping mechanic, it's really not what happens legally through their cash shop that damages the economy. What damages the economy and makes the whales truly whales are the people who are buying gold from illegal sources. They're the ones that are literally going, hi, I want 100,000 gold. Here is several $100s. Thank you. I have 100,000 gold. I am now going to go buy my ultimate weapon. The fact of the matter is, unless they can stop that, you haven't fixed the problem. Apex, trading costumes, all of that stuff were drops in the bucket compared to real swiping. And that's the thing, is real swiping is everywhere on Legacy. People, the price of gold is cheap. People just let me throw $150. Cool, I want to go buy that item, and that's pretty crazy. That's the thing I fear, is that they don't fix the real problem.
Now, Zeb, y'all's guild leader had a personal experience with Gamingo in relation to gold selling. Do you feel like sharing that?
Sure. He had an issue where the gold sellers were advertising on his Discord, and Gamingo came in and basically was going to shut him down, the Discord and all, by IP. He
that wasn't Gamingo though.
That wasn't. It was Discord. It was Discord.
It was Discord.
In conjunction with Gamingo. But he basically then cleaned up his Discord, made sure that everyone was out that was had any intention to do that, and no longer and is taking a very hard stance against gold selling now.
And at what point did that happen after Gamingo's takeover of Tryon? Do you know that?
I don't know that for sure. I don't want to answer.
I'm curious.
That happened very recently. So at the end of the day, what's that may be in somewhat in conjunction with Gamingo, but part of the reason why Discord is being involved in this right now is a much larger picture. And that larger picture is games like Camelot Unchained and many other titles we may not know about that are being worked on, where Discord is now going to be the chat program in-game for those titles. That, and people like Mark Jacobs from Camelot Unchained are huge hard-ons for killing all gold selling, and so I wouldn't be surprised.
Thanks for the sub.
He was more of a driving force than Gamingo, because they want to do business with a lot of different game companies. A lot of game companies want to get rid of gold selling, so I feel that that's where Gamingo in that specific instance was probably pressure, but the bigger picture of why they're involved in at all is all those titles.
Maybe that's why we're having this drought. The game companies are like, screw it, let's just not make an MMO for 10 years. We'll starve them out.
I mean, I can tell you economically why we haven't had an MMO in 10 years.
I
know. But the reality is, and I would just hope that, that's the problem, is when VCs aren't throwing huge money at it, when EA, Rockstar, and all the big names are not throwing money at MMO titles, you're not getting MMO titles. And the price of admission for making one, look at Star Citizen. Here's a independent studio. How much? Almost $300 million? $250 million?
Just hit 335. No, 235.
235. Okay. That's in the realm of the most expensive MMO ever made, which is Star Wars: The Old Republic. I mean, which also hits against Book of World Records for the most voice acting in any MMO. So, you're talking price ranges that are out of this world. Whereas you look at the old school, the EQs, the Dark Ages of Camelots, and everything like that, they were like, so we threw it together with couple $1,000,000 and and everybody loved it.
Well, there was definite that sense of there's nothing else, right? This has not been done. There's nothing else. We'll take what we get, right?
Right.
What kind of gets me is you have all this technology now. Like, for example, Amazon has their server backend. They have, of course, Lumberyard, but then again, they've also come out and said that Lumberyard isn't working as much as they would like it to have. So, I mean, they've got their MMOs working in the background. We don't really know much about them. We know that there's the New World one, and we've also heard that they're working on a Lord of the Rings MMO.
Yep.
Which, what I kind of find fascinating is, like, we have all this technology coming out, which is making it easier to make games. You would think it wouldn't be as bad, especially since that network infrastructure is there. But
see, I would argue that the network infrastructure is not there. I think there's great branding around it, but I don't think it exists. As far as being able to support all these players and these magical ideals of having thousands of players on the screen, I don't think it exists. I don't think Amazon's figured it out. You know, we've seen CU. I mean, I've seen 600 characters on screens casting fireballs. We've all seen the pictures; they're public.
Well, I mean, like the back end exists. I think it's just required the demand for someone to actually go and do it. Which again, it costs money, it costs time. Star Citizen's doing it; it's taken them a long time. Camelot's doing it; it's taken them a long time. I think once they do it and once they figure it out, once they kind of crack it. I mean, it's going to take these first few companies to figure it out. And I'm sure once they're done, they'll either be able to sell that technology to other companies, or maybe they'll be like, they'll do like little GDC presentations and they'll show their peers how to do it. And it'll eventually start spreading.
That's one of the things that, from a difference of the West versus the East, is that East tends to... a lot of their games are all being spawned off from the same conglomerate of companies, and so they share like a lot of their content, their artists, their everything, like very fluidly, and spit out games. Whereas here in the U.S., specifically, everybody holds their all their technology and everything so close to their chest,
and every asset
everybody
created.
wants to. Right, everybody has to reinvent the wheel every time they make an MMO, which makes them so expensive. And as we've seen, MMOs are not the profit machines. I mean, unless you're WoW, that's putting out another Call of Duty is, or another Battlefield is. It's just they can make infinitely more money on less effort to do other work.
Do you think ultimately MMOs are a project of passion for the dev teams that choose to take them on?
These days, it has to be.
Has to be.
Has to be.
Yeah.
That was easy.
Yeah, I was just curious.
Yeah, and that
like-
question.
That was pretty unanimous.
I mean, I agree. I don't know why. From an investing standpoint, there's easier ways in. It is a big dice roll on any MMO company. They've really got to have something.
Well, I mean, think of
tangible.
like all the things that would cause you to drop an MMO. Like, the end game isn't great, or like, the raids are too buggy, the business model sucks. There's like all these things that would cause you just to up and leave an MMO.
Well, I think for a lot of people, ultimately, when it comes to, like, we're packing up our bags, we're going, it is repetition of content. I think ultimately is what causes people to pack up. Even when it's fun. Like, even when it's like, this was fun, this is the same stuff we've been doing. If it's rock solid, if it's the same thing, and it's not dynamic in nature, and doesn't keep you thinking and keep you on your toes, then you're packing up after a couple months. Like, that mess can last 6 months.
Star Wars: The Old Republic and being stuck playing Huttball for
Huttball!
months. Huttball was a great game. Don't get me wrong; it was fun as hell. But you get done with it pretty quick. You're like, all right, we've been doing it for 2 months straight.
Could you imagine an MMO using the Shadow of Mordor like NPC system?
Oh yeah, that would be great.
Not familiar. What's the...
So, like, in Shadow of Mordor, like, it's that Lord of the Rings game where you're gonna go around Mordor stabbing orcs and everything like that. And if you get killed by an orc, he ranks up, and then the next time you meet him, he'll remember killing you, and he'll talk smack to you while he tries to fight you. and basically the NPCs are all dynamic. They're randomly generated. They all have their own attributes and skills and everything like that, and they have their own hierarchy of ranks to climb within.
So
within
that's
the
like a
orcs.
sandbox shared experience, right? Like if I go to a goblin cave and I walk in there, I beat my way down to the bottom and I wreck that guy and I kill the named goblin, like that, they're not respawning for you. The system would have to exist that new goblins see that opening after a certain amount of time and go in there and then occupy the remnants of what I left
EverQuest
behind.
Next was going after something like that.
That's
so was Horizon tried to do that.
That is a wonderful idea, right? Like I love the idea of having a shared space. The reason it's a gamble is because like for players like myself where I can't live in this world, I always feel like I get everyone's second helpings. Like I'm never able to really go in and experience that because other people have, plowed ahead of me and they've shaped this world and I've not been able to have a piece of that world shaping because of people that are able to live in it and devote their lives to it. And I don't know how I feel. Maybe that's okay.
I think one of the things that MMOs are too obsessed with is making you the champion of the story. Because this is not a single-player RPG.
Jesus.
Why am I the champion of the world? No matter what you're doing, like every MMORPG,
I'm just
sitting there going like, you could make so much more interesting, dynamic content if I'm not the one person that has to go kill Hogger.
We're looking at you,
I'm fine being a soldier. It's like.
I would like to say, look at the new game that takes place in medieval Europe. That's basically an MMO with no MMO. It's
Are you talking about New World?
Life is Feudal?
No, not Life is Feudal. It's the other one that just came out, and it has like 6 DLCs now.
It just came out and has 6 DLCs?
Well,
that sounds like a modern game. Must have come out last week.
It's the Oblivion horse all over again. Well, you better figure out a title, Zeb.
I'm terrible at this. My community knows.
But yeah,
that.
like some of the MMOs I've most enjoyed, stay away from that. PlanetSide 2. I'm just Joe Schmo running around with a rifle shooting things.
Well, Velik, I think the best way to compare that is Star Wars Galaxies to Star Wars: The Old Republic. In Star Wars Galaxies, you were just a pants maker. You had your house. You lived on Tatooine or Naboo or wherever the hell you wanted to go. Yeah, you took missions from Darth Vader, but to Darth Vader, you're just some schmuck that. Yeah, go kill some rats. Like I don't like.
Yeah, do my dirty work. Armor.
And Vader's just like
fun I've
doing
had
this work.
in SW Tour was actually in some of the last 3 expansions where they basically just went, you know what, forget it. We're making this a single player game that you can in some ways play with other people. And they put up some really cool, basically single player storyline stuff that I was like, this is actually enjoyable to play with. And it takes like 20, 30 hours to get through. Yep. I basically just bought a single-player RPG, and there's got some multiplayer systems in it that I can choose to do not do.
I just went through it, but now everybody's an emperor of the Eternal Empire. And that's what?
It's like you play the Old Republic, you're a Jedi Knight, and it's like, hey, other Jedi Knights, raise your hand if you've defeated the Emperor.
So let me hit y'all with this last question, and this will probably be enough to close this. In this wasteland we're in, what mirage are we chasing after? Are we going? Are you guys looking for the true sandbox experience? You spawn in, you're a nobody, and here's the world. Go figure it out. Are you looking for the well fleshed out story experience of the theme park? You are that champion. Let me take you through the story. You can experience with your friends as well, the SWO tour, if you will. Or are you looking at something that blends both of those, and maybe doesn't do either one of those excellent, but has elements of both, and potentially could attract more players? What are y'all as individuals after, especially for your communities?
Shit, at this point, I'll take anything fun. Like, Jesus Christ, just give me a goddamn game to play.
How about all the above? I mean,
all the above. Okay,
we're desperate. We're desperate at this point. So the better.
But, narrow down a choice. Like if you have these platters, like they're coming out on the same time.
What is your dream game?
Yeah, what are you?
appears on the
Because I
horizon.
think we have some titles. I think we have some titles coming out in the future that kind of fit each one of these categories.
I would like, honestly, this is my dream title for myself, and perhaps my community would share it, is a sandboxy environment with a deep lore and storyline behind it. It doesn't have to be single player awesomeness. I would like it to be community based because I run a community, and that's part of the joy of it is to run things together and overcome things together, or struggle against things together. And that can include other players very easily. So that's what I'm really looking for. I'm looking for the story of the single player mixed with the flexibility of the sandbox.
So do you want to have that story presented to you via a quest chain or a theme park? Is that how you want it given to you? And then at the end of the ride, you're like, here's the sandbox, go play. We've given you all your tools. Is that what you want?
Not a quest chain. I'm very tired of those. I'm very tired. I'm weary. Because
I could argue that Arcade Unchained is here's your theme park ride. Once you get to the end of it, go play in your sandbox, right? So that's that title in my version. So you don't want that, you don't like that, but you want to dynamically happen upon these little pieces. You're like, ooh, what is this?
Exactly.
And just feel some richness and uniqueness, and you are the person that has to share that lore, right? Like you found exactly it's up to you to share it with others. And that's a true sandbox. And I think you're after a true sandbox. Malik, what about you?
I can agree with that and with what he said in a large extent because for me, the lore of the setting and feeling like you're in a real world is very important regardless of what game you're playing. If I'm in a game that I walk into certain areas, like say Bless Online, and walk into an area and this whole area of this forest is empty and there's no creatures in there because there's not a quest chain that went in there, so they couldn't be bothered to actually populate it with anything. Immediately just like, wow, this is okay, what am I even doing here?
Disconnect, yeah.
And the lore for me as a role player is very important to that. And having a game, whether it's a full sandbox or a PvP MMO or something like that, that has those elements not delivered through a quest chain but just exist is really important. Because I really enjoy Overwatch, and a large part of why I do enjoy it, come back to it occasionally, is because I think the lore of the world and stuff is pretty cool. They don't deliver that anywhere for you. They put it online, they put it in videos,
animated shorts, that's it.
And you can elect to digest it and know what's going on around you, and that's awesome. Now, when it comes to content, for me, it's generally about PvP and sandbox play. That's why I'm backed into Camelot Unchained. That's why I'm backed into Star Citizen. I've kind of looked at some other games, like I said, like Pantheon, but I've never really been a very active PvEer. I've never really been a raider. It's something I have trouble getting into. Going out and killing people, that's the thing I enjoy doing.
Don't stand in the red circle. Don't stand in the red circle. Stand in the green circle.
I'm always in the red circle. They're like, stop standing in the fire. What? Oh, that fire. Shit. Sorry, I'm not used to doing this. My bad. I'm used to shooting people. They don't have red circles that fly around the map.
Yep.
Well, what about you, Malice? What's your desire for your community and yourself?
So, if I was to put together the dream is Chronicles of Illyria not sucking.
Okay.
I don't think that's true. I think it will suck. But
Chronicles of Illyria with a combat system, is that what we're after?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. If you could take Camelot Unchained, and smoosh it into Chronicles of Illyria, so that we have awesome siege, awesome combat, yet a lot of pause where you work on a realm building, you work on the ability and power for your works in-game to mean something, but not because the story tells you to, but because you actually killed the actual king and actually took his job.
Like that happened.
And then other players are going to do that to you.
Yeah.
Those things are really cool. I am in a conceptual idea, it is great. In reality, I fear that its combat system will be clunky, it won't be polished enough, and therefore it will be like almost being in a LARP where you're going to run forward and you're going to be like, we're going to play rock, paper, scissors, or like boffer weapon combat until someone falls over. Like you're not going to feel like you're going to have this in-depth, interesting combat. You're not going to have that level of gameplay. And that I fear. But conceptually, in the grand scope of where I would like to see a community and individual character growth go, I think that Chronicles of Illyria has that best pathway laid forward.
All right, Poison, what about you?
Well, the games I already want, that I really want, and basically my dream games, they're kind of in progress right now. I'm more on the sandboxy side because I don't need single player games in my MMO. I'm already looking forward to games such as Cyberpunk and and whatever else to enjoy. I would rather MMO developers, do what they do best rather than try to shoehorn everything into their game.
Very much so.
So it's just get it done right, get it out. Don't make me waste my time. Because, the fact of the matter is, for these MMOs, we are investing a lot of time as well building our communities, and we have a lot kind of hedging on them not sucking. So,
Yeah.
If they bomb, if the three top titles bomb, I think MMOs are going to be in trouble because the communities are going to die.
Yeah. Honestly, they already canceled my ideal MMO, so I got nothing to really lose at this point.
And I think for
What
myself,
they cancel on you?
World of Darkness.
Oh yeah, yep.
I
God!
was pretty heavy into waiting on that. I had a guild ready and a guild built and everything, fan site, and yeah. So
you and I, after the show, we need to have a conversation.
Still have not recovered.
And I think for myself, I align pretty strongly with Malice and what he's after. I think Star Citizen has promised all that and more. It's just not my genre.
Right.
Although I'll be playing it, it's just not my genre.
I like space.
Yeah, it's just not my genre, and that's okay. Listen, although I think Camelot Unchained is going to be a wonderful niche game, I also agree it may not have the lore depth or the story depth within the game to fill what a lot of people want when it comes to real character building from a roleplay standpoint and building a story behind a character. I don't feel a lot of those features are going to exist. For me personally, that's okay enough to pull the trigger on backing and playing, but I would absolutely agree. Like, you bring that combat, you bring that many people on screen, you bring that building system, Cube, into a title like Chronicles of Illyria, and hot diggity dog, that's amazing.
You want your chocolate
definitely.
and your peanut butter.
Well,
oh god,
yeah, and I'll be honest.
Take a giant piece of chocolate, eat all that peanut butter with it.
I'll be honest. It's one of those things where, like, I'm willing, especially how COE has set up their pay model. I'm willing to enjoy both of them separately. And if I think one will fill a niche that another may not, and they might be great games to play alongside each other. And I definitely feel they have systems to make that super duper easy to do, and not feel like you're falling behind, right? I think COE is meant to be a world that you get to go in, and while you're there, you're experiencing it, and while you're not, it's doing kind of what you told it to do. And it's very similar with Camelot Unchained, although I think it might be more of a time pool for a lot of min-maxers and whatnot, which is okay. I'm a big advocate of people. If you put in 100 hours and I put in 10 hours, you should beat me like you put in 100 hours. I'm a big fan of that. I like diminishing returns at a certain point, and I think Camelot Unchained has those where they need to be.
How do you kill that which has no life?
Put it in an airlock.
Shoot it in the pool.
But guys,
Feed it
that's
Korean MMO.
that's our time for today. I hope y'all enjoyed the discussion, and I'd like to thank everybody that came out and participated on the stream, viewers and participants. Thank you for coming out. Thank you for watching with us. Anyone have any closing words before we go?
Yeah. So Tuesdays. Puka and I do MMO Grind. This Tuesday, we're going to be discussing character balancing and how game companies and different games have approached this idea, and how maybe our ideas might influence the gaming community as a whole.
All right. Well, yeah. Please come out, guys. Please join us and support us, and hope you enjoy the conversation. And we will catch you next time. Until then, have a good one.